Picture this. The room erupts in chaos. Voices clash. Tension thickens the air. Everyone's fighting to be heard, to be right, to win. And then there's that one person, the one who doesn't flinch, doesn't shout, doesn't even blink. While the world burns around them, they simply breathe. You've seen them. Maybe you've envied them. The person who moves through life like they're untouchable by chaos, like they've discovered a secret the rest of us are desperately searching for. What you're about to discover will change how you see calmness forever. Because the truth, these people weren't born this way. They were forged this way. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how their minds work and why their silence holds more power than 1,000 words ever could. If you want to master the psychology of unshakable calm, hit that subscribe button right now, because this journey goes deeper than you think. Let me tell you something. Most people get wrong about calm people. They think calmness means cold, emotionless, detached. They couldn't be more wrong. Here's the real truth. The calmest people you know were once the most emotional. They were the overthinkers, the ones who cared too much, felt too deeply, tried to control everything. They were the ones lying awake at 3 a.m., replaying conversations, analyzing every word, every gesture, every possible outcome. They were the ones whose hearts raced at the smallest conflict, who felt their stomach drop when someone was upset with them, who exhausted themselves trying to fix everyone and everything. So what changed? Life broke them, not once, but repeatedly. And somewhere between the heartbreaks, the disappointments, the moments where panic solved absolutely nothing, they made a choice. They chose to stop fighting storms they couldn't control. They realized something profound. You can't calm the ocean, but you can learn to surf. That's when everything shifted. They stopped trying to prevent every bad thing from happening. They stopped needing to be right in every argument. They stopped giving their energy to people and situations that would drain them dry and give nothing back. This wasn't weakness. This was evolution. Their nervous system had been hijacked one too many times by chaos that wasn't worth it. So their brain did something incredible. It adapted, it learned, it grew stronger, not by fighting harder, but by fighting smarter. Now let's talk about what's actually happening inside their brain, because this isn't just philosophy, this is science. Deep in your brain sits a small almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. Think of it as your internal alarm system. When danger appears, real or perceived, it fires off signals that flood your body with stress hormones. Fight, flight, freeze. For most people, this alarm goes off constantly. A difficult email? Alarm. An awkward silence? Alarm. Someone disagreeing with them? Full panic mode. But here's what happens in calm people. Their amygdala is still there, still functioning, still detecting threats. The difference? Their prefrontal cortex has learned to interrupt the panic. It's like having a wise mentor step between you and your emotional reaction, saying, "Wait, let's think about this for a second." This is what psychologists call response flexibility, the space between stimulus and response. That sacred pause where you choose your reaction instead of letting it choose you. Most people skip right past this pause. They go from feeling to reacting in milliseconds. Calm people, they've stretched that pause into seconds, sometimes minutes, and in that space, everything changes. They can feel anger rising without letting it explode. They can sense fear without letting it paralyze them. They can notice sadness without drowning in it. This isn't suppression. This is mastery. And here's the beautiful part. This isn't a genetic gift. This is a skill, a muscle you can build. Every time a calm person chooses to pause before reacting, they're literally rewiring their brain, strengthening the neural pathways that support emotional regulation, weakening the ones that lead to chaos. Their brain has learned a simple but profound truth. Not every alarm deserves a response. But let's go deeper, because there's something most people don't see. That person who seems so peaceful, so composed, so untouchable by chaos, they're carrying storms you'll never witness. Their calmness isn't natural. It's not effortless. It's not a personality trait they were lucky enough to be born with. It's a discipline forged in pain. See, many calm people learned early that reacting loudly didn't change outcomes, that showing emotion made them vulnerable, that staying composed was the only way to survive certain environments. Maybe they grew up in chaos and learned that adding more noise only made things worse. Maybe they loved someone who punished them for feeling too much. Maybe they trusted people who used their emotions against them. So calmness became their armor. Their quiet became their shield. Their stillness became their survival strategy. But here's where it gets beautiful. What started as protection evolved into power. That restraint turned into awareness. That emotional distance turned into depth. That quiet strength became the foundation of wisdom. They learned to translate emotion instead of being controlled by it. When they feel anger, they ask, what boundary was crossed? When they feel sadness, they ask, what am I grieving? When they feel fear, they ask, what am I protecting? They don't suppress their emotions. They interrogate them. And this is what makes them nearly impossible to manipulate. Because people who rely on emotional reactions to control others, they have no power over someone who's learned to pause, to breathe, to choose. Nothing confuses chaos more than someone who refuses to join it. Here's something fascinating about calm people that most miss. They're not avoiding life. They're reading it, while everyone else is lost in the moment, drowning in the details. Caught up in the emotion of right now, calm people are seeing patterns. They zoom out. They look at the bigger picture. They understand something that panic prevents most people from seeing. This moment is temporary. This feeling will pass. This storm will end. Not because they're optimistic, but because they've lived long enough to know it's true. They've survived the breakup that felt like death. They've recovered from the failure that seemed permanent. They've healed from the betrayal they thought would destroy them. And every single time, life continued. The sun rose. They adapted. They grew. So now, when crisis hits, they don't catastrophize. They remember. I've been here before, not in this exact situation, but in this exact feeling. And I survived. I'll survive this too. This is not denial. This is perspective earned through experience. They've learned that worry is just interest paid on trouble that hasn't happened yet. That rushing rarely speeds anything up. That arguing rarely changes anyone's mind. So they conserve their energy. They spend it like currency, only on things that truly matter. They've discovered a truth that eludes most people. Energy is finite. Peace is priceless. When you understand this, everything changes. You stop defending yourself to people who've already made up their minds. You stop explaining yourself to those who aren't trying to understand. You stop forcing connections with people who aren't choosing you, not because you don't care, but because you finally understand the cost of caring about everything. And here's what's magnetic about this. When you stop needing validation from the world, you become immune to its chaos. Calm people don't need you to agree with them. They don't need you to like them. They don't even need you to understand them. They need peace. And they've decided that nothing is worth sacrificing that for. So maybe you're watching this and thinking, that sounds amazing, but that's not me. I'm anxious. I'm reactive. I overthink everything. Listen carefully. Every calm person you admire was once exactly where you are right now. They were the ones having panic attacks over small things, replaying conversations for days, losing sleep over what someone might think, checking their phone obsessively, waiting for responses that would determine their mood for the entire day. They were the ones who felt physical pain when someone was upset with them, who apologized, even when they weren't wrong, who twisted themselves into shapes just to keep the peace with people who didn't deserve their energy. They were you. They were me. They were all of us before we learned better. But somewhere along the way, they got tired of the mental exhaustion that came from caring about everything, tired of giving power to things that didn't deserve it, tired of losing themselves in the process of trying to please everyone else, tired of living at the mercy of every emotion that passed through. And in that exhaustion, they found clarity. I don't have to live like this. That's the moment everything changes. When you realize that your emotional chaos isn't a permanent condition, it's a habit. And habits can be broken and rebuilt. But here's what they understood that most people miss. You can't just stop the chaos. You have to replace it with something else. So here's exactly how they did it. First, they started noticing their patterns. They began paying attention to what triggered them, not to judge themselves, but to understand. They kept mental notes. I always spiral after scrolling social media for too long. I always panic when I don't get an immediate response. I always assume the worst in silence. Awareness is the first step to freedom. Second, they practiced the pause. Not meditation, not hours of deep breathing, just a pause. One moment before reacting. One deep breath before responding to that text. One count to 10 before jumping into an argument. That's it. That simple space between feeling and reacting, that's where they reclaimed their power. Third, they changed their internal dialogue. They stopped asking, why is this happening to me? And started asking, what is this teaching me? They stopped saying, I can't handle this, and started saying, I've handled worse. They stopped believing, this feeling will destroy me, and started remembering, this feeling will pass. Your inner voice shapes your reality. They learned to speak to themselves like someone they loved. Fourth, they built their anchors. Morning stillness, even just 5 minutes before the chaos of the day began. Evening reflection, journaling, walking, or simply sitting with their thoughts. Physical release, movement that allowed trapped energy to escape. Simple rituals that signaled to their nervous system, you're safe, you can rest. These weren't luxuries. These were survival tools. Fifth, they started saying no. No to drama that wasn't theirs. No to conversations that drained them. No to relationships that required them to shrink. No to commitments that sacrificed their peace. Every no to something toxic was a yes to themselves. And here's what happened. Slowly, not overnight, not in a week, not even in a month, but slowly, consistently, deliberately, they transformed. The same situations that used to break them started to bounce off. The same people who used to trigger them lost their power. The same thoughts that used to spiral them started to dissolve. The same fears that used to paralyze them started to feel manageable, not because life got easier, but because they got stronger. They discovered something profound. Calmness isn't the absence of chaos. It's the ability to find your center while chaos swirls around you. Think of it like this. A storm can rage on the surface of the ocean, waves crashing violently, but deep below, absolute stillness, complete calm. That's what they learned to access. That deep, unshakable place inside themselves that no external circumstance could touch. And the more they practiced returning to that place, the easier it became to find it. The path from chaos to calm isn't linear. There will be setbacks, days where you react exactly the way you promised yourself you wouldn't, moments where you fall back into old patterns. But here's the difference. Calm people don't let one bad moment define them. They don't use one setback as evidence that they'll never change. They forgive themselves. They try again. They understand that growth is messy. Because here's the truth that nobody tells you. The journey to calmness is itself an act of calmness. You don't become calm by being perfect. You become calm by being patient with your imperfection, by choosing peace again and again, even after you've chosen chaos, especially after you've chosen chaos. So here's what I want you to understand. Really deeply understand. Calmness is not a personality type you're either born with or without. It's a skill, a practice, a choice you make 1,000 times a day until it becomes who you are. The calm person you see sitting quietly while the world erupts around them, they're not special. They're not gifted with some rare genetic advantage. They're not lucky. They're just someone who decided that peace was worth fighting for, and they fought for it through tears, through relapses, through moments of doubt where they wondered if they'd ever change, but they kept going because they'd tasted what peace felt like, and they refused to settle for chaos anymore. And the most beautiful part, that same choice is available to you right now, in this very moment. You don't need to wait for perfect conditions. You don't need to read another book. You don't need to wait until your life is less stressful. You can start with your very next reaction. The next time someone says something that would normally trigger you, pause. The next time you feel anxiety rising, breathe. The next time you want to control something uncontrollable, let go. Just once. Just that one time. And then do it again and again. Because here's something that calm people know, that anxious people are still learning. Small choices, repeated consistently, create massive transformation. You don't have to become perfectly calm tomorrow. You just have to be 1% more intentional today, 1% more aware, 1% more willing to choose peace over being right. And those 1% improvements, they compound. 6 months from now, you won't recognize the person you were when you started this journey. The things that used to devastate you will barely register. The people who used to control your mood will wonder when they lost their power over you. And you'll realize it wasn't them who changed. It was you. You'll discover that you've been carrying this strength inside you the entire time. You just needed to stop abandoning yourself. Every time life got difficult, you needed to stop betraying your own peace for situations that were never worth it, because you've already survived 100% of your worst days. Every heartbreak, every failure, every moment you thought would destroy you, you survived all of it. That's not luck. That's not chance. That's the strength that lives inside you, waiting to be acknowledged. The calm you're searching for, it's not out there in some perfect future where everything is easy. It's not in a relationship or a job or a place. It's in you, right now, even as you feel anxious, even as you feel overwhelmed. It's in that quiet voice beneath all the noise that whispers, I can do this. I can choose differently. I can find my center. That voice, that's your truth. Listen to it, and every time you choose to honor that voice over the panic, you're not just surviving, you're becoming the version of yourself that doesn't need the world to be calm, to feel at peace, the version that can walk through storms without becoming one. That version of you already exists. You're meeting them one choice at a time. So I'll leave you with this. Calmness is not found in perfect conditions. It's found in the decision to be still even when everything around you is falling apart. And that decision, you get to make it right now, and in the next moment, and the moment after that, one breath at a time, one pause at a time, one choice at a time. That's how people become unshakable. That's how chaos loses its grip. That's how you reclaim your peace, not by controlling life, but by mastering yourself. And once you master yourself, everything changes. The world stays the same, the challenges remain, the chaos continues. But you become unmovable, unshakable, free. And there is no greater power than that. If this resonated with you, if something inside you just said, I needed to hear this, subscribe right now, because we're just getting started on this journey of understanding the mind and mastering yourself. Drop a comment and tell me, what's one thing you're going to choose differently after watching this? Remember, the calm you seek is already within you. It's time to stop searching and start building. Every time you choose differently, you're rewiring your brain. Every time you pause, instead of react, you're building new neural pathways. Every time you breathe through discomfort, instead of running from it, you're teaching your nervous system that you can handle this, and you can. You absolutely can.